Chosen one. Yesterday you worked hard, didn't you? And today you showed up again. Early mornings, long hours, quiet sacrifices no one claps for. Heaven saw every single one of them. God has been watching what you do in secret, and you've always felt it in your spirit that you're different, that you're set apart, that your path doesn't look like everyone else's. So you've wondered, why hasn't it happened yet? Why do you look around and see others rising while you're still waiting? Hear this clearly, anointed one. It's not that God doesn't love you, it's that the time has not yet fully arrived. Scripture says the vision is appointed for a set time, and though it tarries, it will surely come, as written in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3. Real wealth, lasting success, kingdom-level elevation does not arrive cheaply, because anything that comes too easily can disappear just as fast when the foundation isn't strong enough to hold it. God allows the process because He is building capacity before release. But here is the warning, chosen one, how tragic it would be to finally rise only to lose what was meant to last. That is why heaven is interrupting you now, not to delay you, but to protect you, not to withhold, but to prepare you. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear is not random. And if your spirit already feels stirred, take a moment to subscribe and quietly comment 777 as a sign of agreement, because this message was scheduled by heaven and you are closer than you think. Chosen one. I need you to hear this with clarity and sobriety. Heaven is not panicking about your future, but heaven is paying very close attention to this moment. Right now, before the wealth arrives, before the elevation becomes visible, before your name starts moving in rooms you've never entered, there is a divine pause taking place. Not a delay of punishment, but a pause of protection. Because when God prepares to release abundance, He also inspects the vessel that will carry it. And this inspection does not happen after the blessing. It happens right before. I've walked with enough people, and I've watched enough cycles to know this truth. Wealth rarely disappears because of lack of opportunity. It disappears because of unseen forces operating beneath the surface. Forces most people never notice until it's too late. That is why heaven is calling you to attention now, chosen one. Not to scare you, but to steady you. Not to slow you down, but to make sure what's coming does not collapse under its own weight. You see, in the natural world, there are moments when entire systems begin to lean heavily on a small number of pillars. When too much pressure rests on too few supports, everything looks strong until one shift exposes how fragile it really was. Spiritually, the same principle applies. When your future becomes dependent on narrow foundations, narrow thinking, narrow discipline, narrow discernment, it may rise quickly, but it cannot stand for long. And heaven refuses to let you build a destiny on something that will not last. Chosen one. There is a reason it often feels like everything around you is speeding up while you are being asked to slow down internally. There is a reason you feel the tension between excitement and caution. This is not confusion. This is discernment being activated. God is sharpening your awareness because the next phase of your life will require more than ambition. It will require vision, restraint, and spiritual intelligence. I remember seasons in my own life where opportunity multiplied faster than wisdom. Doors opened before my character had finished maturing. And I learned the hard way that not every open door is an invitation to run. Some are tests to see whether you can walk steadily without losing yourself. That is why heaven does not simply ask, "Can you get wealth?" Heaven asks, "Can you hold it without becoming dependent on it, enslaved by it, or careless with it?" Right now, the world celebrates acceleration, faster growth, bigger numbers, quicker results. But heaven measures differently. Heaven watches what happens under pressure, When systems grow rapidly, when influence expands suddenly, when expectations rise before stability is secured, heaven does not cheer, heaven evaluates. Because anything that grows faster than its foundation will eventually demand a price. Chosen one. Many people mistake movement for progress. They see momentum and assume it means safety. But I've seen momentum hide weakness. I've seen excitement mask imbalance. I've seen applause distract people from the quiet erosion happening underneath their success. And heaven in its mercy is not allowing you to walk blindly into that trap. This is why you've been feeling an internal check, a holy hesitation. It's why you've felt prompted to reevaluate, to simplify, to strengthen areas others ignore. This is not fear. This is preparation. Scripture reminds us that wisdom cries aloud in the streets, warning before destruction, not after. And what you are sensing now is wisdom speaking early. Chosen one wealth does not arrive alone. It brings exposure. It magnifies habits. It amplifies weaknesses. It tests relationships. It reveals motives. What was once manageable in obscurity becomes dangerous in abundance. And heaven is not interested in giving you something that will later become the very thing that breaks you. I want you to understand something deeply personal. I've watched people pray for increase with all their heart, only to be crushed by it because their inner structure was never reinforced. They believed the blessing would fix them, not realizing the blessing would expose them. And I say this gently but truthfully, heaven loves you too much to let that be your story. Right now, before the wealth arrives, there are forces moving not just in markets, not just in systems, but in the spirit. There is pressure building, expectation rising, and in moments like this, discernment becomes more valuable than enthusiasm. That's why you're being invited to step back, not to retreat, but to see clearly. Chosen one. The world is pouring massive energy into building the future. Everyone wants to control what's next. Everyone is racing to dominate what they believe will define the next era. And while that may look impressive, heaven sees something deeper, a system fueled by urgency, not wisdom, by competition, not stewardship. And whenever urgency replaces stewardship, collapse is never far behind. This is not a message against progress. This is a message about order, about alignment, about timing, because heaven moves intentionally, not impulsively. And when heaven prepares to elevate someone, it first teaches them how to remain grounded when everything around them is moving fast. Chosen one. The greatest danger in this season is not missing out. It is being carried away by the current without anchoring your soul. It is allowing the excitement of what's possible to overshadow the discipline of what's necessary. And this is where many lose what they were so close to receiving. You are not being warned because you are weak. You are being warned because you are close. Close enough that the traps matter now. Close enough that small compromises would have large consequences. Close enough that heaven is intervening before the release, not after the loss. Take a breath here. Let this settle. This is not a message of fear. This is a message of honor. Heaven is treating you like someone entrusted with much. And before anything is placed into your hands, heaven is ensuring your hands are steady. If your spirit feels alert right now, not anxious but attentive, that's confirmation. You are in alignment. You are being prepared. And this moment of awareness is not accidental. It is mercy speaking, early wisdom stepping forward, and protection wrapping around your future. Stay with this. Let it anchor you, because what comes next is not about the world's traps. It's about the ones that quietly drain people right before their breakthrough. Chosen one, now that your spirit is steady, I need to speak to you about the first trap, the one that looks harmless, even reasonable, but has quietly drained more destinies than almost anything else. This trap is over-concentration, not just in money, but in trust, in focus, in expectation. When too much weight is placed on too few pillars, collapse doesn't announce itself, it waits. In the natural, you've seen this pattern before. Entire systems leaning on a small group of giants. When they rise, everything rises with them. When they stumble, the shock ripples through everyone who thought they were diversified simply because they were present. Spiritually, this is the same danger many chosen ones face before wealth arrives. You begin to believe that one door, one stream, one opportunity, one person or one idea is the source, instead of remembering who the source truly is. Heaven never designed your future to depend on a narrow base. God does not build legacies on a single pillar. He builds them on order, spread, and resilience. When your trust becomes concentrated, when your hope rests too heavily on one outcome, you unknowingly hand your peace to something that was never meant to carry it. And when that thing shifts, your stability shifts with it. I've seen people become so fixated on one path that they stopped hearing God altogether. They prayed less, listened less, questioned less, because the momentum felt like confirmation. But momentum is not alignment, speed is not safety, and growth is not always strength. Many times, growth is simply pressure, revealing what was never reinforced. Chosen one, ask yourself gently, is there anything in your life right now that feels too big to fail? Anything you've placed silent confidence in without realizing how much of your emotional and spiritual balance depends on it. This is not condemnation. This is calibration, because heaven is always adjusting before it releases. The reason this trap is so dangerous is because it feels intelligent, it feels strategic, it feels efficient. But heaven does not move by efficiency alone. Heaven moves by wisdom. And wisdom always asks, what happens if this shifts? If one change could destabilize everything, then everything was never truly stable. I learned this lesson painfully early. There was a season where everything I had built was working until it wasn't. One shift, one change in the environment, one unexpected adjustment. And suddenly what looked solid revealed how much pressure it was quietly carrying. That moment didn't destroy me, but it reshaped me. It taught me never to let one stream become the lifeline of my peace. Chosen one. Wealth that comes from heaven is not meant to be fragile, but it becomes fragile when the carrier is attached to narrow structures. God spreads blessing intentionally across wisdom, relationships, disciplines, and inner maturity, so that when pressure comes, it doesn't break you, it bends around you. The second trap is more subtle and even more dangerous: circular validation. This is when value is created on paper, in appearances or in agreements, but not yet in substance. When progress begins feeding itself instead of producing real fruit. Spiritually, this looks like celebrating elevation before transformation has finished, applauding momentum before mastery has formed. You see this all the time in the world. Systems exchanging value back and forth, calling it growth. Numbers moving, headlines forming, confidence rising. But when you look closely, nothing new has actually been created. Just recycled energy being counted multiple times. Spiritually, the same thing happens when chosen ones mistake affirmation for confirmation. When praise becomes the fuel, discernment weakens. When attention becomes the metric, discipline erodes. You start measuring yourself by response instead of obedience. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin feeding the image instead of building the substance. Chosen one. Heaven is deeply concerned with what is real, not what is loud. Real strength, real wisdom, real capacity, real stewardship. Anything that only works when everyone agrees to believe in it will eventually collapse when belief fades. That's why God never rushes you into visibility without first anchoring you in truth. I've watched people rise on applause and fall in silence. I've watched influence grow faster than integrity. And I've watched how dangerous it is when success begins talking to itself instead of being grounded in reality. Heaven does not fear growth. Heaven fears illusion. This is why you've been kept grounded, why you've been corrected quietly, why you've been slowed down when others were racing ahead. Heaven is protecting you from becoming dependent on systems that only survive as long as belief circulates. Because when belief shifts, the fall is brutal. The third trap emerging in this season is accelerated expectation without matching capacity. When progress is assumed to continue at the same pace forever. When people build their future on the assumption that improvement will never slow down. This is one of the most deceptive traps because it feels logical. If it worked yesterday, it will work tomorrow. But heaven does not move in straight lines. It moves in seasons. There is a moment when growth must change form, when expansion must deepen instead of widen, and when that moment is ignored, pressure builds silently. Spiritually, this is what happens when people chase acceleration but resist formation. They want the outcome without the endurance to hold it. Chosen one. God is not impressed by how fast something grows. He is impressed by how long it lasts. Scripture speaks of houses built on sand and houses built on rock, not because one looked weaker, but because one was prepared for storms. Storms are not punishments. They are tests of structure. You are in a season where heaven is testing structure, not promise. And this is good news, because it means your promise is real enough to be protected. You are being trained to recognize when progress must slow in order to strengthen, when silence is not stagnation but reinforcement. This is why heaven is speaking now before the wealth arrives, before the doors swing open fully, before the responsibility multiplies. Because once it does, these traps become far more costly. Chosen one. If this message feels heavy, it's because it carries weight, not fear. It carries honor. It carries responsibility. Heaven is treating you as someone entrusted with increase, someone whose future matters enough to be safeguarded early. Let your spirit remain calm here. This is not about fixing everything at once. It's about awareness, alignment, adjustment, the kind that ensures when the blessing comes, it stays. Take a breath. Let discernment settle. You are not behind. You are not late. You are being prepared properly, and that preparation is the difference between wealth that flashes and wealth that remains. Chosen one. There is another layer to this warning that must be handled with precision, because this next trap does not look like danger at all. It feels spiritual. It feels generous. It even feels righteous. And yet it has quietly emptied more destinies than failure ever could. This trap is premature release, releasing access information, energy, or resources before the vessel and the environment are ready to steward it. There is a holy timing to everything God does. Scripture reminds us that even Jesus did not reveal himself fully until the appointed hour. Not because he lacked power, but because power revealed too early attracts misuse. And this is where many chosen ones stumble. They feel the stirring of what is coming and assume it must be shared immediately. They confuse excitement with assignment. They confuse proximity with permission. Chosen one. Not everyone who celebrates you now is qualified to walk with you later. Not everyone who claps at the announcement is built to handle the responsibility of the outcome. When heaven delays visibility, it is often because separation has not yet finished. God allows time to reveal who is aligned with your purpose and who is merely curious about your potential. I've lived this personally. There were seasons where I opened doors too early. I explained plans before they were fortified. I extended trust before discernment had finished speaking. And I learned that premature access creates premature opinions, premature interference, and premature drain. What God was still shaping in silence became vulnerable the moment it entered the wrong ears. Chosen one wealth does not only attract opportunity, it attracts entitlement. People begin to feel they deserve access simply because they were present during the struggle. But history does not equal qualification. Familiarity does not equal alignment. And heaven does not reward proximity. Heaven rewards obedience. This is why you have felt prompted to become quieter, not louder, more selective, not more open, less reactive, more observant. This is not isolation. This is stewardship. God is teaching you how to protect what has not yet fully arrived. The next trap hides in something even subtler: emotional leakage. This is when energy is constantly poured into places that produce sympathy but not strength. Conversations that revisit pain but never produce wisdom. Relationships that feel comforting but quietly weaken your discipline. Emotional leakage does not look destructive in the moment. It looks human, but over time it drains clarity, focus, and authority. Chosen one. Not every listener is meant to be a carrier. Not every shoulder is meant to support your weight. When you repeatedly pour your internal process into people who cannot carry it, you create dependency instead of growth, both for them and for you. Heaven is careful about who hears certain things because words create responsibility. When spoken too freely, they scatter power. There is a reason Scripture speaks about guarding the heart, because what leaks slowly still empties the vessel. Emotional overexposure makes you spiritually porous. You begin to lose sharpness. Boundaries blur. Discernment dulls. And before you realize it, you are tired not from work, but from unnecessary sharing. I've watched people sabotage themselves, not through rebellion, but through constant explanation. Explaining their vision to skeptics. Explaining their growth to people who benefit from them staying small. Explaining their discipline to those who resent it. Every explanation costs energy. And when energy is spent defending what God already approved, it is being misused. Chosen one. Heaven never asks you to convince anyone. It asks you to align. The fruit will speak when the season comes. Until then, silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. The next layer of this trap is misplaced generosity. Giving before capacity is established. Supporting before stability is secured, trying to save others while still being formed yourself. This trap feels noble, it feels loving, but love without wisdom becomes a burden. Heaven does not ask you to pour from an empty vessel. It asks you to fill the vessel first, so that the pouring does not cost you your future. There are seasons when generosity must be disciplined, not impulsive. Not because God is withholding, but because God is building sustainability. I've seen people rush to give away what they were meant to steward long term. They felt pressure to prove goodness, to prove gratitude, to prove worthiness. And in doing so, they compromised the very assignment the blessing was meant to fund. Heaven does not reward guilt-driven generosity. It rewards obedient stewardship. Chosen one. When wealth arrives, it must land in a structure that can protect it from emotional pull. Because once people sense you have capacity, they will test it. Not always maliciously, often unconsciously. Needs will appear, stories will surface, expectations will rise, and if boundaries are not already formed, generosity becomes obligation instead of purpose. This is why God trains his people in seasons of no before seasons of yes. Not because he enjoys restraint, but because restraint builds discernment, and discernment protects abundance. Another trap quietly draining people before their breakthrough is identity drift. When you begin defining yourself by what is coming instead of who you are becoming. When anticipation starts shaping ego instead of humility. This is subtle but dangerous. You begin seeing yourself through future outcomes rather than present obedience. Chosen one. Your identity must be anchored in calling, not outcome. Because outcomes change, seasons shift. But identity rooted in assignment remains stable. Heaven does not want wealth to redefine you. It wants wealth to serve who you already are. I've watched people lose themselves chasing the version of themselves they imagined wealth would create. They adjusted tone, posture, priorities not because God led them there, but because expectation pulled them. And when the outcome did not match the fantasy, confusion followed. This is why heaven keeps reminding you who you are before what you receive. Chosen one, anointed one, called, not crowned yet. Prepared, not displayed yet. The order matters. Take a moment and feel this. Nothing you are being warned about means you are unworthy. It means you are entrusted. Heaven does not caution lightly. It cautions intentionally. If your spirit feels sober but peaceful right now, that's alignment. This is not heaviness. This is clarity, the kind that protects futures quietly. Remain present. Remain grounded, remain teachable. You are not being tested to fail. You are being trained to last. Let this settle without urgency, without fear, without overcorrection. Awareness alone begins the adjustment, and heaven will continue shaping what it intends to sustain. Stay still here for a moment. You are exactly where you need to be. Chosen one. There is a final internal shift that must take place before heaven can safely accelerate your life, and this trap is the quietest of them all. It doesn't shout. It doesn't warn you with fear. It disguises itself as wisdom, patience, even humility. But if left unchecked, it slowly drains momentum right before manifestation. This trap is over-control, born from fear of loss. After walking through long seasons of delay, discipline, and self-correction, many chosen ones begin to tighten their grip on everything. They monitor every move. They overcalculate every decision. They hesitate longer than necessary. What once was discernment slowly becomes tension, and tension suffocates flow. Chosen one, hear this carefully. Stewardship is not the same as control. God never asks you to manage your future alone. He asks you to partner with him. When fear of losing what you don't yet have begins to dictate your decisions, trust quietly steps back. And where trust retreats, joy fades, creativity slows, and faith becomes mechanical instead of alive. I've lived this. There was a season where I was so determined not to repeat past mistakes that I began resisting movement altogether. I confused caution with obedience. I delayed decisions God was nudging me to make because I wanted certainty before surrender. And what I didn't realize at the time was that God had already built the safety. He was waiting on my trust. Chosen one, wealth that comes from heaven is released into movement, not paralysis. It flows toward people who can listen, adjust, and move again. When you clamp down too tightly, you unknowingly signal that fear has replaced faith. And fear, no matter how quiet, always restricts expansion. There is a holy balance here. Discernment without rigidity. Wisdom without suspicion. Preparation without anxiety. Heaven is not asking you to be reckless, but it is asking you to be responsive. Another expression of this trap is delayed obedience. When you feel the nudge but wait too long, When you sense direction but stall for confirmation after confirmation. When you pray for clarity, receive it, and then ask again because you're afraid of the responsibility attached to action. Chosen one, delayed obedience is still disobedience, not because the heart is wrong, but because fear has slowed trust. God rarely gives full visibility before movement. He gives enough light for the next step. The rest appears as you walk. I've seen people miss timing not because they refused God, but because they waited too long trying to feel ready. Readiness often comes after obedience, not before it. Heaven responds to movement rooted in faith, not perfection rooted in hesitation. Another drain that shows up right before breakthrough is comparison masked as evaluation. You begin checking your pace against others, measuring your silence against their visibility, questioning whether you're behind because someone else seems ahead. This is dangerous territory for a chosen one. Comparison always pulls you out of alignment. It makes you rush seasons you were meant to walk, or despise seasons you were meant to learn from. Heaven does not bless copied timelines. It blesses aligned ones. Chosen one. Your timing is not late, it is precise. The pressure you feel is not because you're behind, it's because the release is near, and refinement intensifies closest to manifestation. Pressure before birth is not failure, it is transition. Another subtle trap is forgetting the source once the system starts working. When habits replace humility, when structure replaces sensitivity, when routines replace relationship with God. This doesn't happen suddenly. It happens slowly as success becomes familiar. I've watched people pray desperately for provision, then slowly stop listening once provision stabilized. They didn't rebel, they just drifted. Systems worked, income flowed, structure held, and sensitivity faded. Heaven was no longer consulted, it was assumed. Chosen one, never let what works replace who you walk with. God is not a startup idea you outgrow. He is the source that sustains everything. The moment dependence shifts from God to the system becomes vulnerable. This is why heaven often allows disruption even after success, not to punish, but to recenter, to remind, to realign, to pull your attention back to the source of life. Another drain that appears in this season is misplaced urgency, feeling like everything must happen now, that if you don't act immediately, you'll miss your window. This urgency does not come from heaven. Heaven moves with authority, not panic. Chosen one. What is meant for you cannot pass you by. What is aligned with you will wait until you arrive. Urgency rooted in fear leads to rushed decisions, misaligned partnerships, and unnecessary compromise. Heaven's pace is firm but calm. When urgency rises, ask yourself, is this excitement or anxiety? Is this faith or pressure? God's voice carries peace, even when it calls you forward. Let me speak this plainly. Heaven is not afraid of you failing. Heaven is concerned with you forgetting who you are becoming. The wealth coming toward you is not the destination. It is a tool, a responsibility, a platform for impact beyond comfort. That is why this season feels serious, why the joy is quiet, why the refinement is deep. Heaven is shaping someone who can carry weight without losing wonder, authority without arrogance, abundance without attachment. Chosen one, you are not being squeezed, you are being stabilized. You are not being delayed, you are being aligned. If you feel heavier but clearer, that's growth. If you feel quieter but stronger, that's maturity. If you feel less reactive and more intentional, that's readiness. Stay soft, stay responsive, stay anchored. Do not rush what God is securing. Do not control what God is guiding. Do not compare what God is custom building. What is coming does not require you to become someone else. It requires you to remain who God has been forming. Take a breath. Let trust return to your posture. Let movement feel natural again. Let faith be alive, not tense. You are not losing momentum. You are entering precision. Chosen one. This is the moment where everything comes back into alignment, not with noise, not with spectacle, but with truth. Because after every warning, heaven always offers a way forward, not a shortcut, not a formula, but a posture that preserves what God is about to release. You have now seen the traps, not as accusations, but as mercy. And mercy always arrives before damage does. That alone should tell you how close you are. Heaven does not correct people who are far away. It corrects those who are within reach of responsibility. So let me speak plainly to your spirit now. The wealth coming toward you is not fragile, but it will respond to how you carry yourself in this season, not later, now, before it arrives. Because abundance is drawn to order, the same way chaos is drawn to neglect. Chosen one. The greatest protection against every trap you've heard is alignment over anticipation. Anticipation looks forward and guesses. Alignment looks inward and listens. Anticipation asks, when will it happen? Alignment asks, who must I be when it does? Heaven is not rushing you because heaven is not uncertain. What is assigned to you has already been accounted for. But what heaven is watching now is whether your inner life can support your outer life when the two finally meet. I want you to understand something deeply reassuring. You do not need to fix everything you heard. You do not need to become hyper-vigilant or overly self-critical. That would be another trap. Awareness is not meant to produce anxiety. It is meant to produce adjustment. Adjustment happens quietly, in how you speak, in how you choose, in how you pause before reacting, in how you let God interrupt you without resisting. These are not dramatic shifts. They are subtle realignments that compound over time. Chosen one. Heaven does not perfect people by pressure. It perfects them by presence. The more present you are with God, not performing, not striving, just attentive, the more naturally your life begins to reorder itself. This is why prayer in this season may feel less emotional, but more grounding. Why worship feels quieter, but deeper. Why your appetite for chaos has diminished. You are not losing passion, you are gaining stability. Another truth you must carry forward is this: nothing you are being prepared for requires you to abandon your humanity. You are not meant to become cold, distant, or hardened. Wisdom does not remove warmth. Discernment does not remove compassion. Boundaries do not remove love. They refine it. Heaven is not shaping you into someone untouchable. It is shaping you into someone unshakable. The difference matters. Unshakable people can give without losing themselves. They can listen without absorbing. They can move without rushing. They can hold wealth without worshipping it. They can be generous without being drained. They can be visible without being exposed. Chosen one, that is the kind of vessel God trusts. Let me also release this fear from you. You are not going to miss it because of one mistake. Heaven is not waiting for perfection. It is watching for teachability. A soft heart corrects faster than a flawless plan ever could. If you stumble, you will adjust. If you misstep, you will recover. What drains destinies is not mistakes, it is refusal to listen, and you are listening. That alone separates you. Another anchoring truth is this: wealth does not define arrival. Peace does, clarity does, consistency does. Many people reach numbers but never reach rest. Heaven's goal for you is not just increase, it is sustainability. Sustainable abundance looks quieter than people imagine. It looks like routine faithfulness, like wise silence, like selective access, like obedience without applause, like joy that doesn't depend on validation. If you ever wonder whether you're truly ready, look at what no longer tempts you. Look at what no longer triggers you. Look at how quickly you recover your peace. Those are signs of readiness far more accurate than excitement. Chosen one. The reason this message feels weighty is because it is sealing something. Sealing is not ending, it is stabilizing. Heaven seals what it intends to protect from premature loss. This is not the season to announce, it is the season to anchor. It is not the season to prove. It is the season to remain faithful in small things that build large outcomes. You are not being hidden because you are unworthy. You are being hidden because what you carry is valuable. There will come a moment when movement accelerates naturally, when things line up without force, when doors open without pressure, when provision flows without panic. And when that moment comes, you will recognize it not by adrenaline, but by peace. Peace is the confirmation you are aligned. Before we close this body of work, I want you to take one internal step. Release the fear that you could somehow ruin what God has planned by being human. God knew exactly who you were when He chose you. He accounted for your learning curve. He built mercy into the timeline. Your responsibility is not to control the outcome, it is to remain surrendered to the process. Surrender does not mean passivity, it means responsiveness. When God nudges you, move. When He warns you, listen. When He steadies you, you rest. Chosen one, you are not standing on the edge of loss, you are standing on the edge of transfer. And the reason heaven spoke so clearly is because the transfer is real enough to protect. Let your shoulders relax. Let your breath slow. Let trust return to your posture. You do not need to grasp what is coming. It is already moving toward you. What you need is the strength to receive it without fear, without haste, without compromise. Remain aligned. Remain grounded. Remain teachable. What is about to arrive will not test your worth. It will reveal your preparation, and you are prepared. Chosen one, take a moment and let your spirit rest in this truth. You are not late. You are not behind. You are standing in your exact kairos, the appointed time heaven marked for you long before you ever understood the journey. What has been held back was not withheld. It was being protected, purified, and prepared to last in your hands. I declare over you now the traps you were warned about will not claim you. The wisdom released in this hour has already set you apart. Heaven is aligning your steps, steadying your heart, and strengthening your discernment so that when the wealth arrives, it finds a vessel ready to steward it with peace and purpose. The transfer has already begun in the unseen. What is shifting spiritually will soon be reflected naturally. Remain faithful, anointed one. Guard your heart. Stay humble, steady, and responsive to the leading of God. Do not rush what heaven is securing. Walk forward with gratitude, not fear, knowing that what is coming is sustained, not fragile. You are not stepping into excess alone, you are stepping into assignment. If this word resonated in your spirit, you may quietly affirm it by subscribing and commenting 777 as a sign of agreement, or sharing it with another chosen one who needs confirmation. May peace surround you, wisdom guide you, and abundance find you ready. Go forward, covered, aligned, and confident. Heaven has gone before you.